Thank you for stopping in at Down the Road Show today. Normally, I record a little intro describing this podcast and who's going to be on it as far as guests go. But today, we're lucky because we only have one special guest, and we're going to go all over the map with this man. Welcome to the show, Cig Neutron. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Cig and I go back a number of years. You will probably recognize him from the TV show Faceoff. He was on there as a contestant, does a lot of great sculpture and makeup stuff. Let's talk about that show first, and then we'll go from there. What was the Faceoff experience like for you?
Yeah, man, it was probably one of the most awesome and equally like stressful things of it. Like there was, I don't think I've ever like been in a situation where it was amazing and awful at the same time. Because, you know, it's like on one hand, we get to make monsters every day and, you know, have unlimited access to materials. And then it's going to be put out, like shown to the world. Like, you know, it's like millions of dollars worth of basically like free advertising essentially. And then on the other hand, when you go on the show, they put you in what's called the bubble. So they put you in a cast house, they take your phone away, you have no TV, you have no nothing. Like we only had like Monopoly and each other for like 2.5 to 3 months. And like towards the end of it, man, like I was getting like mad cabin fever and, you know, just like we can only talk to our families like once every like few weeks and things. And like they even tell you going on the show, it's like if one of your family members dies, we will not notify you because exactly, they don't want you like breaking the bubble. And then because like it's happened before where a contestant like left the show, so it's like, so you have like you know, me back then was like riddled with anxiety. So I'm like, every day I'm like, is my family okay? Like, I wouldn't even know if they're not okay. You know, it's like fucked with me mentally.
Wow, that's messed up. So so not only do you have the anxiety of an artist, because for those of you watching out there who are not artists or an actor or a musician or a creator of any kind, you don't understand probably the anxiety behind putting yourself out there behind all of your work. So you already got this anxiety as being a creator and an artist, being on the show, putting your stuff out there publicly, and now you're cut off from your family.
Yeah. Yep. So it's weird because you actually have to go, you have to go to a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever, like an entry examination. And then they follow up like afterwards, because it's like, there's this whole like reacclimation, decompression thing of like going back to the real world after you've been like, I mean, they take good care of us. Like anything we want, the fridge is always stocked, like everything. But you know, it's just this weird, like you literally plug yourself out of real world for a minute and then live this like life where everybody's taking care of you and you have to like ask to go to the bathroom and it's like you're a kid again. It's really weird.
Wow, that's intense. And it's actually really good to know that they kind of do a mental health check before and exit. Like you're the first person that actually told me that.
Yeah. Yep. And I think most reality shows do. But I think shows like Face Off want, you know, more stable people because they focus on the art and creativity. But I think some shows are more nefarious and they want the crazy people that are going to break on TV.
That's the only reason I watch The Bachelor. And yes, my sister got me into The Bachelor last year, and that's why I watch it, because they make me feel really good about myself.
There's something about reality television. There's an allure to it. Like for a while, me and Rannie were watching the Bad Girls Club for a while. And like, if you don't know, it's just a show about like just terrible people living in a house together and getting drunk all the time. And I don't even know the appeal. Eventually I got to a point, it's like, man, why am I watching this actually? Because
you know,
it's like,
MTV started the whole genre of all of it, and Real World New Jersey spun it to a darker side than it was already going, and reality TV has been forever changed ever since that. MTV doesn't even play music anymore. I remember sneaking over to my buddy's house to see my very first MTV video because I was not allowed to as a good little Mormon kid in Pocatello, Idaho. And the first video I saw was Van Halen Jump. And boy, was my life changed.
Nice. That would change anybody's life, man.
But yeah, and you know, it actually makes me feel really good hearing about that, because I had a great time, and you saying that you know, it's about the art and the craft, and that's why Facebook was looking for more probably stable people to do that. And that makes a lot of sense, because I got to come and meet a ton of Faceoff people thanks to you inviting me to your Faceoff review party, and that was just a blast, just hanging with that many makeup creative people, because I mean, you know, people, you either know who Rick Baker is or you don't.
Yep.
and that's a crowd of people who all know who Rick Baker is, and like, just the conversations were just so amazing and interesting. Like, what is it that gets people like you and people like them into the world of makeup and monsters and horror? It's not all monsters and horror, but like, that's the fun shit.
Yeah. You know, I think it's weird because you talk to most effects people and they all have the very similar origin story. It's like, we loved movies and that was kind of like our escape. And we wanted something, you know, like for me personally, like I think the real world is really boring. So I want to bring to life things that, you know, I just want to leave this world a little bit more bizarre than it was than when I found it, you know? And that's kind of, that's sort of the story with a lot of effects people. Like you saw, the making of the Thriller video, and it's like, this is like pre-YouTube, you know, like back in the day, like we had to like work to find us. We'd like pause the behind the scenes on DVDs and try to look at what's on the shelf and like try to figure out like, what do they do it? But now it's like, you got all these YouTube videos and all this access to information and stuff is way easier. But, you know, it was like, it was definitely, you had to work for your love back in the day, you know. But I mean, you know,
like a puzzle piece. You guys were figuring it out. And there weren't exactly, you know, the Winston School wasn't around. There weren't schools for this, and now there are.
Yep.
So it's and that's another thing I love about y'all. It's such a tight knit community.
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, working in the effects industry, it's a lot, like with any creative industry, it's a lot of networking. Like you could be the most badass artist, but if you're an asshole, like nobody's gonna want to hire you. You know, it's like you have to balance your talent with your personality. And, you know, because like everybody's grouped up on one job and then that lasts for a few months, but then the movie's over, you know, so everybody disperses and then they get hired at other jobs. And then if you've made friends there, then they're going to be like, hey, this shop's looking for people or that shop's looking for people. So it's through the networking that you begin to sustain yourself while you work in the industry.
Which is a lot different than whereas if you're an A-list actor and you're known to be an asshole, you're still getting hired because you're in the business. But if you're an asshole behind the camera, nobody wants to work with you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have that celebrity status to to pull you through.
Right. Yeah. Well, and your work really is what shows, and that is the important part about it. And you know, so speaking of mental health, man, you're on a mental health journey and a spiritual awakening journey, which I've been loving watching. You're pretty much where I was 4 years ago. So watching your Facebook posts remind me of the stuff I was typing up 4 years ago. It's been fun to watch. So I'm all about irreverentism. Let's tell the folks out there of your new movement of irreverentism.
Yeah. So basically, irreverentism is it's a movement of thought, I call it, because at first, like and again, it's like something that I'm forming and listening to people and input and, you know, trying to make it the best I can. So it's a fluid movement. It's not rigid, but it's based on the core principles that, you know, embracing individuality through unity is kind of one of the most simplest ways I can put it, is that we're all so sad because society tells us who we have to be. And a lot of us feel like we have to be somebody that we don't truly know that we are. So we hide our true selves. And what I'm trying to encourage everyone to do is say, look, I'm fucking out there. I don't give a shit. Like I'll talk about whatever, like I have no shame, you know, and like just put myself out there and show others that it's like, hey dude, like I got no worries because like society has no hold on me because it can't use shame to control me. And then if enough people start doing this, then we have a group, then the group of individuals becomes bigger than the group of conformists that are unhappy. So eventually we'll hit a tipping point to where everybody can embrace themselves and the beauty and the wonderful diversity and be themselves together.
Right. And I understand that because I've always been a nonconformist and I tend to draw in other nonconformists and find nonconformists like you and make friends out of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so instead of in a really good, I kind of view it this way: instead of the hive mind mentality, it's a hive love mentality.
Yeah.
Or hive love, not mentality, but like, I don't know. It's okay. Here's something I say all the time, and I'd love to get your input about this, because I always say, think with your heart, not with your head, because your head can talk you into anything. Your heart will be wrong, but it'll never lie to you, and your head can lie to you and talk you into anything. Now, last year there was that synagogue shooting in Poway in California. Well, I was living in Poway, and I got to go to the synagogue the week after to help support the community. And I was having this wonderful conversation with the rabbi's son, who's also a rabbi, but he's like in his late 20s. And when I told him that, he didn't get it. And he equated the thinking with your love to thinking with your dick. And I was just like, okay, your dad would get what I'm talking about. You're in your 20s, you're not getting this.
Right, yeah.
So, but yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with kind of your irreverentism, like, you know, thinking more with compassion, thinking more with kindness. And, you know, I always say your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's because the sigil of irreverentism is, I drew it up and I call it the charred heart. And it incorporates a lot of like,
I like that, charred heart. I like that.
Yeah, because it's, I finally understood through this like journey and working with Rannie and stuff. So there is like a spiritual aspect to irreverentism too, but not in a forced sense or a conformist sense where you have to follow any sort of religion. It's, you pull practices and whatever system of belief that you have to navigate this world that helps you, then there you go. That's your magic. That's how you manipulate your mind to overcome the matter. Like that's, it doesn't have to be, you're not going to hell. You're not doing any of this stuff. But when I came up with the charred heart is when I finally understood, like Randy did this trauma release ritual for me. And I was in front of the fire, and it was all a fire ritual. And like, I just felt my heart open up, and I like released these traumas. And then I finally understood like the whole story of Christ and Jesus is that, he's like, we have to suffer to understand. And in a sense, like modern religion has flipped that and the story of Jesus and tells it to where Jesus was the only one that could do what Jesus did. But I believe what Jesus was trying to do was show everybody that they could they have these empathic powers, they have this ability, but it's something you have to work for. Like for 30 years, like he went to Batt and studied like meditations and all of these like inner like mind things, but like the Bible doesn't really talk about that. You talk to the average Christian and they're like, what, Jesus meditated and shit, get out of here. He spent time in Tibet, whatever, And
yes, he did.
Yeah. Yep. And there's in the pre-Christianity, there's all the Gnostics, and it's all about, they were all about ascension. And, basically there was like a keeper of the earth realm and the archons, and they keep you plugged into this system, but it's all about like trying to rise above that and ascend. But this was like pre-Christianity stuff. And even like, this is like stuff that like Jesus was like into. And like, but the Catholic Church, they're like, wait, we can't have everybody being Jesus's now, man. We got to take this guy out, and then we got to subvert his message and say that only he was the Son of God, and the rest of you are living in shame and sin, and fuck you all, and you're worthless. And that's how they controlled the population for so long.
Because the last thing they need or want is for all of you to find your individual God inside.
Absolutely.
Because we are all atoms and pieces of the universe.
Yep, exactly. Like we live in a fractal universe where a single photon of light can recreate the entire universe. So our single individual consciousness could essentially expand to the entirety of all that is. So I believe that there is a source that is, everything. And we are just separate parts of those source experiencing itself. Because if you were like the single soul being that was, like, there would be nothing to do. There would be nothing to learn. There'd be nothing to gain. There'd be nothing to grow because you had nothing to work against. So of course, this supreme mind would separate itself into individuals so that through these individuals, it could experience its entire existence from different perspectives.
Exactly, because being the alpha and the omega and knowing everything's got to be really damn boring.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I actually had a point and I just totally forgot it. Part of which is, mental health and everything. It's like, because I got the nerve damage going on, and it affects the way I think, and I can't remember main characters of TV shows I'm watching anymore, let alone the actors and people's names that I've known for years. Songs to lyrics from classic rocks that I've been singing my entire life, gone like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And so dealing with the healthcare system as it is, and dealing with doctors right now is driving me crazy. And I've reached my wit's end on multiple times. But it is what it is. We all got to take care of ourselves, because we can't help others, and we can't ascend into a better place and better frame of mind beyond this, framework, if that's how you want to put it. And because, that's where I was going with it. Because essentially, like you're talking about with ascension, and here we are, if the concept of a God creating all of us, and we are all a piece of him for the experience. And that's what I love about what you said there, for the experience, because in most religions on this planet, that's what they talk about, is the fact that we are here for the experience. We are here for the trial and error to learn better and bigger and better ways. Now, let me take you into a whole nother train of thought with that. Yeah. Because only barely 15 years ago, science discovered that we have brain cells throughout our entire body. They have discovered them in our lymphatic system, in our digestive system, in our skin. So our entire, and the heart, everywhere. In every cell, there are brain cells. So not just our brain. So therein, our entire body is a memory system, okay? Here is why I think we are here for the experience, and we're nothing but we're the biggest, baddest supercomputers in the universe. We are here to record everything in our experience. And if you want proof of that, touch is a memory sensor. Smell brings back memories. Sound, I can name a song and you could probably have 30 memories back in your head. Sight, you see something and it brings back memories. Like everything we do that is one of our senses triggers memories. So that's always been one of my theories for a long time, is that we're just pretty much giant supercomputers taking all that information back to home.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I say with like meditations and things that I've gotten into, is essentially because with Irreverentism, another of my goals is to bring secular folks into the fold too, because mainstream religions have scared people off from something that is like inherently your birthright. Because like if you're living great and you don't believe in any kind of spirituality or whatever, and like you're happy and you're fulfilled, great, keep doing what you're doing, because you're picking up on what you're supposed to be doing anyways. You don't need a system, you're doing it.
Right.
But if you're unhappy and you're like, man, something is missing in my life, which like a lot of people feel that way. I'm saying that like it's most likely you're missing something spiritually, but whatever you want to call it is up to you. But sometimes you say spirituality,
and they immediately go religion, and it's not the same.
Yep. And then also, if they don't go to religion, they'll immediately go to like new age hippie, like love and light stuff, like positive vibes only. And it's like, okay, sort of, but not that either. It's, it's something that you have to be open to get in there to figure out what parts you need from it, and not judge based on what is already existing. And I had an original point about this.
You're basically taking what works for you, like Lego pieces, and building your own little Lego town of Zen.
Yeah, totally.
In your mind.
Oh, right. And then, so with meditation and stuff, whether you believe in it spiritually or not, I lay out everything practically too, because I say spirituality is practicality. And for a lot of secular people, if you think of your body as a supercomputer, because I use that analogy a lot, is that when you meditate, you're actually running like defrag programs and disk cleanup in your mind, and that's like if you know how to, because there's this because most people are like, I've tried meditation and I wasn't good at it. And it's like, I tried to do a backflip one time and I wasn't good at it either. You got to practice these things, because just like anything physical, like meditation is a mental exercise. So it takes work and you have to like actually stick with it and practice it.
And you're so right about that. It's like anyone who's just like, oh, I'm going to go do yoga. And then you read their Facebook posts after the first time they do yoga and they're just dead. They're dying. They're in so much pain. And yoga is slightly slowly moving meditation, but it's also extreme deep stretching. All those positions are designed to stretch out your tendons, your muscles, and your fascial system, which holds all your muscles together. Because once you fill up your lungs with air in the proper way, it stretches out everything from the inside out. So there's multiple reasons for yoga, just like there's multiple reasons for meditation. And like you said, I really like the way you put that into computer form with defragmenting it and just kind of, you're just rebalancing your entire system. It's not, and like you said, with the whole, hippie movement, love, peace, you know me, love and light, I'm all about positive vibes, but positivity breeds positivity. In other words, the more positive you think, the more you speak, the more you act, and the more you're going to manifest positivity in your life. It's not discounting the negativity. It's not saying you never have negative thoughts. It's not saying you don't get fucking angry at your family during Christmas like everyone else when they're not listening to you and you're in a shit ton of fucking pain. But it is what it is. It's, and once again, we referenced this in a previous podcast. It's the two wolf story, the dark wolf, the light wolf. They live in all of us, and you feed both of them according to what you need that day.
It's interesting because I just did a meditation yesterday, and my ancestor showed me a white wolf. It's interesting that you bring that up today, that's funny. All these little synchronicities always happen.
Well, you also did say that your newest is wind, your last meditation and everything, or it was either last week was dedicated to wind or this week, and I was just like, well, let's use our wind properly and talk to each other.
Yep. So that's another thing with like the love and the light, new age spirituality that they kind of miss, and that what turns everybody off is that when what they're saying is like love and light, that's the end goal, but it also, there's a whole process to get to that. Because of course that's the end goal. Why would we not want love and light? Like why we want to aim for chaos and darkness? I mean, some people, because
that's the light at the end of the tunnel, but you're still in the damn tunnel.
Yeah, and like, so I've done a lot of research on like alchemy, and so part of spiritual alchemy is there's the Negredo phase. It's the black phase. It's the beginning. And again, like I said earlier, you have to suffer to understand. So bad things have to happen because bad things give you a context in which it enriches the experience almost. It's like, it's weird to think of it that way, but if you start thinking of it that way, I mean, you got to deal with your traumas one way or another. So if you start thinking of them as like a positive asset, like you're still here, you've made it through them. So now what did you learn from them? And you have to like accept the bad things that have happened to you. And I say a lot of people in religion, they're chasing the forgiveness of a God, but in all actuality, we just have to forgive ourselves because we are that God.
Yeah. And the more inner turmoil you have, the more you project it onto other people.
Yep. And, sometimes this is necessary because it's to learn, because it's all about the learning process. It's all about purging yourself from the things that no longer serve you. Maybe back in the day, being an asshole, like got you to where you are now. Maybe that was important that you were that asshole. But then, so it's like there's a reason why there's no limit on who you can be, because the experience is open for whatever. So sometimes it's like, and that's why I think the culture today is kind of, we're going backwards, because like we'll dig up a tweet from 10 years ago and then crucify somebody over it. And it's like, man, if you're still the same person you were 10 years ago, then what the fuck are you doing? It's like.
So that brings up another point, and that's, it's all about presence. And I think technology was supposed to bring us all closer and be more present in the world. And it's done that with information, but it's made us less present in our own lives. And they say anxiety is worrying about the future. Depression is just overly thinking about the past. Neither one are healthy for you, and neither one leave you being present in your current situation with your family, with your friends, with your job, whatever it is. And so the lack of being present is what causes so many other issues in our life and can cause health issues too.
Yeah, no, I've been listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza, which I highly recommend if you haven't checked out his stuff. He's like a neuroscientist, and like he's definitely spiritual, but he tries to frame everything he does within the realm of neuroscience, not to scare off the secular folk. But he's saying, and he brings up an amazing point, is that emotions are the byproduct of an experience. So and then the same, like we actually, 90% of the thoughts that we have every day are the thoughts that we had the day before. And if we're stuck in this like depression or something, it's because, well, are you doing the same thing that you're doing every day? Because the same experiences lead to the same emotions, and then those emotions lead you back to the same experience. So you get caught in this cycle of thinking and feeling, and you realize that it's a self-sabotaging cycle. And to break that, all you need to do is step out of your zone, completely break your habit, and do something new to lead to a new experience, which would lead to a new emotion. So,
which is why you hear about it all the time, or I see friends like all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm spiraling down. Someone please help me," and they know it's them.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of like honestly, the last year, when all this stuff happened and like Randy started channeling and like we had this awakening, like I never had put so much effort into thinking about my mind, myself, my being than I have in the last year. And once you start really just reflect and being honest with yourself and stop trying to we all do shitty things. Yeah, we can be assholes. Like you just accept that. Like great power comes with accepting the fact you're fuck ups. It's like, I screwed that up, but that if I had the power to screw it up, I have the power to make it better or do better. It's like, yes, we do these things, but we become different people throughout our lives. And that's the whole point of learning and growing. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just like the meme I shared the other day, is the me I was isn't the me I am. And it's definitely not the me I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, then that's the point of all this experience is, shouldn't we always be growing and always be changing? And it's okay to cut the toxic people out of your life if they're not growing with you and they're holding you back. You want to find the people around you that are planting seeds to grow the kind of life they want.
Yeah, it's crazy. Since we had this awakening, like we kind of went hermits for like a couple months, and then now.
Oh boy, you see who your friends are, don't you? When you do that.
Yeah, well, it's like, and this is like not any knock on any of my friends or anything. It's just I understand now that once you live your life.
Mine was. I've moved twice in less than a year, and I've had all these health issues. So mine was definitely a knock. I know who my friends are now.
Yeah. Well, when you start living on a different frequency, you realize that like some of your friends aren't on that frequency, and that's okay. Like you can try to offer, I always say I show people the path. I show people there is a path, but I can never make anyone walk the path. So if you just like, hey, here's this is what I do that works for me, whether they take it or not, cool. Don't force it either way. And if they don't, like you'll find that you just kind of don't even really hang out with that person. And then new people in your life come into your life that are actually on the same wavelength. And I really think that we're just these like, our minds are magnetic and they have gravitational pull and our frequencies. So we pull the people into our lives that should be there based on our current state of being, so if you're negative, you're going to pull in all the negativity people, and like, maybe they need something from you. Maybe you can help each other out, but maybe you'll get stuck and overwhelmed by negative people if you don't change something about yourself.
Yeah. And that more catchphrases, that's, we go through seasons in life. So people either come into your life as a season to give you a reason to learn and they give you life lessons, or they come into your life permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, so when you said that, like, so you have nerve issues, is that?
Yeah, I got multiple pinched nerves in my neck and then in my lower back. They cause all kinds of different issues, but the doctor says I'm not available for surgery. He doesn't recommend it. I'm guessing he's screwed up too many and has been sued. So I'll be looking for a second opinion on that because there's no way, with everything going on with me and the amount of pain I'm in and the amount of dizziness and vertigo I have every day and the brain fog I got going on every day. It's a fight with the system right now. I haven't worked in 3 years, so I'm currently fighting Social Security to try to get any kind of disability from them. But since I'm not retired and I didn't get hurt on the job in my 20s, all the laws work against me and it's all bullshit. And a lawyer won't even take my case unless I get an advocate letter from my doctor clearly saying this poor bastard cannot work, period. Like I can't, like, that's why when you jumped on here, I came from off screen to sit down. I can't sit here for an extra 5 minutes longer than I need to. I can't sit, I can't stand. Like there's literally nothing I can do for work. And because after 20 years of working in the restaurant industry and some pencil pusher convinced or some CEO convinced the government that restaurant industry is light work, like they're just like, what's your problem? Why can't you go back into the fuck you, senators and congress people. Let me see you change one goddamn keg. Remove the empty keg, let alone put a full keg in there. Take a full tray of full drinks. You want to know what's heavier than that? A full tray of empty dishes without the food. Do that for 20 years and see how you feel. I want to see you guys do it for a week. Like, just finding this out from the lawyer the other day just fucking set me off like you have no idea.
Yeah. Dude, I can't imagine how anyone could go to a restaurant and not even like peek behind the curtain and like see that's a tough fucking job, man.
Yeah. Oh, here, one of my favorite stories. So I had this lady come in, sit by herself in my section during lunch. And first, this is exactly what she said to me. I come over to the table. Hi, ma'am. I'm Casey. How can I help you? I'll be your server today. Have you been here before? Let me just stop you right there. I only got a half an hour for lunch because I have a real job. So we need to make this quick.
Wow.
Guess who was late for work? I got all the power, bitch.
Yeah. Wow. I'll never understand why people like give shit to people in the service industry of any, like no one is beneath anyone. Like we're all here. We're just doing different
janitors, like, you know, people talk shit on first responders. Like those guys work 24 hours to save lives. Yeah. They're out all night away from their family, risking their lives, and people still talk smack on them. Like, why do people think that digging a ditch is, it's beneath them, but yet, okay, let's keep out all the Mexicans who are willing to do it when our fucking little white kids will not. Right. I managed a restaurant in Irvine, California. Let me tell you what a pain in the butt it was to get those kids to work. And the only reason any of them had a job is because their parents made them get a job to teach them responsibility. They didn't learn any damn responsibility, I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes with the more we can expand our perspective and the more we can think from other people's perspectives, the more that you start to have this universal consciousness, because like the only thing that makes us who we are is the way we think. So if you want to be like anyone or anything, just think like that person. You know, so it's like if you want to elevate yourself to like a divine status, like think from a divine perspective, you know, think from a higher perspective and see like the pawns and see the game for what it is, you know?
Exactly.
So do you have any meditative practices or anything that you do at all?
Okay. So this was something I was gonna mention to you, but I forgot in my last rambling. So all of the universe can be broken down to frequency and vibration.
Yeah.
Everything in the universe. So I love the fact that you brought that up, because like, you know, a lot of people, they don't even teach us in school anymore. So I don't know how many people know this, but for those of you who don't, when you see the color blue, that comes down to a specific wavelength pattern that is actually measured. Same with the color red, it's a different wavelength. Every color out there. We hear things in sound, we see things in sound basically too, is what I'm saying. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if everything in life has a universal order and wavelength, I mean, then doesn't that make sense that we are part of the universe? We are energy beings. Positive vibes does make sense. And so let me all right, let me take this into the religion crossover here for you, because I always find this interesting. I don't know if it's ironic or what, but you know me, former musician, love music, okay? Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know, there's only 7 actual notes in the known universe when it comes to music. Now, there's all kinds of degrees down under each different note that can go down to the 100th degree. So yes, there's a ton of notes out there, but there's only 7 original notes. 7 days in the week. God rested on the seventh day. Jesus will be brought back by the trumpeting of angels. Music is in the form of chants, and every religion and meditation that is out there, period. Music is the language of the universe and God.
Mm-hmm. So I want to to add something to that is I've realized, because I believe in reincarnation, and I also realized that memory is interesting, and I've started, so here's what I started doing this with irreverentism. Like, I think that nothing is impossible. So it leads me to think in any sort of direction because I'm not afraid of being ridiculed. So I've started and I might be wrong, but I always learn something of thinking in that direction.
Well, and you're putting your ego and pride aside, and that is really the truth of awakening and ascension that most people don't realize.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many empaths I've run into in different group discussions on Facebook and different things like that, because I'm an empath magnet. I just find mediums and people who are good with tarot cards, like they're drawn to me. I find them out of nowhere. But it amazes me how many of the fake empaths are out there. That they're just these narcissistic, egotistical, like, my way is the highway. Like, no, that's not empathic at all. That's not the way any of this awakening is supposed to work.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to what you're saying.
No, you're fine. So there's that. So you played music. So there's this sweet spot that when you're like, if I play the piano, when I'm playing the piano, it's like, if I focus too much on my fingers, I fuck up. But if I focus not enough, like, so there's this not enough, then I screw up too. So there's this weird magical moment that you feel it when you slip into the zone and your fingers just do what they just, I call it the rhythm of the moment. They tap into the rhythm of the moment, and then you're just with the flow of this moment.
Perfect example of that. Did you watch the BBC Sherlock Holmes?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I won't ruin it for you. But there's a moment. Everybody knows Sherlock Holmes plays the violin, right? So there's a moment where he's talking about violin with someone else, and they're like, well, you always play it wrong. You're not playing it right note for note, because they're even more cerebral than Sherlock Holmes. But playing it right note for note negates the emotion.
Absolutely. So what I started with this like simple statement that I think, because if outside of time, outside of the 3D realm, like time, space, there are other dimensions out there. So time is just the concept to us. So if everything has already happened and it has happened and it's already happened, then we would never really learn anything new. We would only remember things.
Right. So
I've started this thing, and then they say that music and rhythm is like Alzheimer patients. They never forget music. So that's like the one thing that they can't forget. So
my thing is definitely not Alzheimer's then.
Yeah. So what I started doing was this, trying to dig up subconscious thoughts through like rhythm and letting myself just do something. So I made this song for this, I documented all the spiritual awakening stuff when we went down to New Orleans, and I'm putting out a docuseries called Black Tea and Bourbon. And I made the theme song, and then I wanted just some kind of like creepy chant to go along with the song. And then I just chanted the first thing that came to mind, and it was Rok Sha Rok. And I still haven't figured out what this thing is, but it's some kind of like magical mantra that is specific to me somehow, that's supposed to remind me of something. Because once you start saying it back to back, it creates that you can't tell what came first. It's like Rok Sha Rok Sha Rok Sha Rok Sha Rok. And then you could start hearing Sha Rok, or you could hear Rok Sha, but you can't figure out which one comes first. So I think it's like some sort of primordial sound. But anyways, that's getting like way far in the deep end. But
I love the deep end.
So it's something I haven't figured out why it's important. But so then I started coupling this with I heard about Egyptian power postures, and I was like, you know what would happen if I just put on some music and then I just let my body do what it does, like what feels right. And then why do we dance? Like everybody fucking dances, and nobody
children dance.
Yep. And no one questions why
Babies and toddlers naturally dance.
Absolutely.
Everybody dances. You don't have to be taught to dance. You're taught not to dance.
Exactly. You're afraid to dance. Mm-hmm. So that's shame being used to keep you from your magic. I believe that
we make every decision based on love or fear. Go ahead.
Yep. And I believe that dance is somehow linked to magic. I believe, like in the past, you see all these deities always like Shiva and all of them in a dance pose. So I believe that actually you can cast magic with dance, and it's all dance and rhythm and sound. So I started doing this thing, and I just started letting my body move where it went. And then I just went into a trance. And then next thing you know, I'm doing these crazy mudras and weird geometric positions that I never even knew that my body moves that way. And then I started doing this thing where I was on my back, and then I would pull my legs up, and then I would slowly let my spine, by the weight of itself, guide itself down. And I felt my spine locking into realigning and locking into these places. And then I just felt amazing afterwards. So this has been my practice of doing this made up, I call it Roksha now, is where I just let my body do what it does. And it's aligning. But there was this one night that I did it. It was the second time I did it. And I went onto my back and I aligned something, and this weird something in my nose unplugged, and this strange weird substance that dripped down the back of my throat. And it was chemical, and it was really weird. And I didn't know anything about what that was until I just recently talked to somebody, and they were talking about how he can put his tongue into his sinus cavity. And that's a part of that was an old meditative technique or something. And if you keep doing this, you unlock some sort of gland up there that releases a fluid. Yeah, and it releases a fluid that goes down the back of your throat. And these are somehow I unlocked an ancient discovery of unblocking whatever the fuck in my nose by letting my body just do what it wants to do. Right. So I believe that I think that, so that's what I'm saying. It's I think maybe for you, I would try.
Okay, so to answer your question, because you were asking me,
yeah,
and I haven't been doing it, but so after my awakening, which now that I'm realizing this, comes a few months after spending all day with master healer Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa.
Ah.
You know who that is, right?
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with
Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
wait, he does healing now? Or wait, what?
Let me share this story with you real quick, because I said, we were gonna have, I knew this was gonna be a full podcast with just us. Okay. Yeah. So I used to help run C4 Ventura Comic-Con. I was one of the marketers, and I helped with the show, and I helped with picking up people from the airport, the celebrities. I did I did panels. I did everything. Anyway, that ended poorly. Anyway, so I had to go pick up Carrie from the train station, and lovely, lovely man. He had a green neon spider on him, which got loose in my truck. Which freaked me out. I've never seen the spider like that in my entire life. Second of all, I didn't find it until the night after, where the moonlight caught it just right, and I'm like, kill me! I'm spiders are my thing. They poop webs of death. Come on, you shouldn't be scared of them. Anyway, so I check him into his hotel. That was a clusterfuck. That was a pain in the butt. And finally get him into his hotel, and we just start bullshitting. I was in his hotel room for 3.5, 4 hours, just hanging out with Carrie and just having the most amazing conversation. Well, it turns out the whole reason he got into martial arts to begin with was to learn the healing side of martial arts. But after decades of martial arts, or a decade of martial arts when he was a young kid and in his teenage, he finally asked his sensei, his master, is when do I get to learn the healing parts of this? And his master told him, not until you've learned every way to kill somebody. And he's like, well, this isn't why I started this. That's why he ended up quitting martial arts and went into acting and became who he is. Mm-hmm. But over the years, he has been developing his own self-healing technique using breath work, because most people know that we only use 10% of our brains, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
those are your smartest people on the planet. Most people don't know, though, that we only use 75% of our lungs, okay? So he developed this breathing technique, which is all sitting and holding the chair and positioning your back right and then you inhale deeper than you've ever inhaled, and you focus your breath into the parts of the body that are where your pain is, to help heal and get the oxygen going through the blood and sending it directly to your pain spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. I still use it. It works. And I watched Kerry, instead of signing autographs all weekend, like that's what he was there for, to do his job, he healed people all week. He showed them this healing technique all week to the general public. Like, he's supposed to be there as a celebrity signing autographs, and instead he's just, every time I walk by his booth, he's got someone in the chair and he's teaching them and he's healing them, and they're hugging him afterwards, thanking him, going, holy crap, I haven't felt this good in a decade. Like, so I developed my own meditation kind of based on some of that breath technique. And after I had my awakening on September 3rd at 6:30 a.m. 2013, that I'm pretty sure that was a couple months after that session with him. And I'm talking to you now, I'm just realizing that. And I just ran into him at Albuquerque Comic-Con a few weeks ago.
Nice.
And he didn't recognize me because I was fat, and you remember, I used to have long hair down to here, so he hasn't seen me since. He's like, oh, I had to remind him. He's like, oh yeah, how are you? And I'm like, look, here's my card. Let me hook you up with some filmmakers wherever you live. I got a great network across the country. We need to get your stuff filmed. So those of you out there, if you're a filmmaker, let's get together and help carry Hiroyuki Tagawa get his breath work out there. But okay, so back to my own meditation. So I've always been good with seeing the energy around me and feeling it and whatnot. And so I developed a technique of literally swirling the energy while breathing it in, forcing it down to where I needed it in my body for healing. And then I would exhale and push away all the negative energy.
Nice.
And sometimes I would bring it in through the crown chakra. I would bring it in through different chakras I needed as my body was telling me what I needed. But it was because energy is constantly, it's like water, it's fluid, it's motion. And so I always felt it was, I always liked the concept of there's different theories on the universe, on the way is it expanding in every direction? Is it expanding like a cone? Is it spiraling out or spiraling in? And I've always kind of looked at time and the universe as a spiraling effect. And that is why time can fold back in on itself and loops back around, is because it spirals back to itself in a kind of way. And so that's the meditation, the movement meditation technique I developed for myself.
Yeah.
Which is what you were asking about earlier. So
yeah,
that was a long story to get to that one point.
That was great. I'm glad you shared that. It's crazy because, so that part of what I do when I do this Roksha is I'll get into a pose and then I'll start you have to be very present and focus on your body. Where's your pain? And then I'll start doing like a subtle, like maybe it's a shoulder, something, because if we're all frequency, think about it like this. Don't think of yourself as a body. Don't think of yourself as matter. Think of yourself as frequencies. And then how everything works is through harmony. So what's wrong right now is that there are certain parts of your body out of harmony. So
they are.
If you put on some music and you start dance some rhythm into these pain spots, and do a little, just a little, don't go crazy or anything, but do what your body feels and focus on bringing rhythm to those spots, and then see if that actually starts to have an effect. Because I tell you, man, since I've done this, my back pain that I've had is completely gone. I feel like a new person. So maybe just put it on and if nobody's around, just dance, literally dance rhythm into your pain, and just tell me, and you let me know if that works, because I have no, but you have to think of it.
I could tell you the two things that make my condition worse versus actually help. Any sort of movement makes me worse. And sitting as still as possible to not aggravate is what heals it. Besides fucking marijuana and CBD.
Interesting.
Yeah, those are the only things that help. So a lot of times I have a neck pillow that I'll watch TV in so I don't have to use my neck, because my neck muscles get super tired. But it also reminds me not to turn my head too fast or too much to talk to the people in the room watching TV with me. And it's also difficult with driving, because, got to be careful, turn my head too much. All of a sudden it causes migraines and all kinds of issues. And then now I got the vertigo. So I'm not even driving myself anymore because of the vertigo. I am dizzy 10 out of the 14 hours I'm awake every day. Now it's a lot of fun. So yeah, there's a lot to figure out, and I get what you're saying. Because I went to school for massage therapy. I've always gone the holistic route first. Last thing I ever thought I would be asking for is surgery. So to be denied surgery when I actually want surgery is weird to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and I suggest to everybody, you know what? Your body is a magical self-healing thing. And you should be trying everything holistic and everything possible before you just go into a doctor who, in the current healthcare system, just wants to shove pills down my throat, all of which have worse side effects than what I'm going through, and will make me take other pills that'll cause other side effects. Which is pointless.
That's the model of America's healthcare system, is how many pills can we sell to people to give them other problems that we can sell them more pills for.
Exactly.
I mean, like the opioid crisis, like, oh my God, it's like literally it was created by the government, big pharma. Like
exactly. And they knew they were doing it. Like, now I don't know how much you know, like my sister just overdosed in July of this last summer. That's who my previous caretaker was that I was living with down in Poway. She's an anesthesiologist. She's been doing all the nursing stuff forever. She could have become a doctor. She just didn't want to go through that much more schooling and have that many more student loans.
Sure.
But this is the kind of thing we used to talk about all the time, is the healthcare system and how she couldn't even afford her own healthcare, even though she made $130 an hour in a plastic surgeon's office. But because of her malpractice insurance that she had to have, that was so expensive that she couldn't even afford her own health care, which is ridiculous.
That's insane.
And like, why are we not giving free mental health care, especially to all the vets and first responders that are pulling people out of the fires and out of their cars and seeing the worst of humanity out there? Like, these are our frontline people. Why are we not giving them free mental health care?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, for anyone to look at the system the way it is and thus doesn't believe that it could get any better is like absurd to me. Like, this is not the best we can do. Like, it's
not if we're the best and smartest, best country on the planet.
Yeah. If we're supposed to be a shining beacon of like hope, democracy, and freedom, like, then we should be worried about like everybody that, I know that they're like, it's going to be tough. There's like, nothing is a simple issue, but right now, basically our problem, like, I think the only issue of our time is the corporate oligarchs versus humanity, really. Yes. Because they have a stranglehold on like all of the big pharma, student loans, like the NRA, any big industry has got its fingers in everything, and they basically pay politicians to write policy that protects the corporations. Mm-hmm. So then they have this like little system here. Like, even the cable companies, there's 5 cable companies that run
the entire country.
Yep. And they've just divvied up the country, and they have no reason to provide better service because they all raise their prices together. They're basically one giant company. They're 5 companies with a pact. So there's no competition. There's no nothing. And most people don't even know that most of the country doesn't even have internet. And here's my issue is that
keep them in the dark.
Once you restrict access of information, then you restrict. Culture cannot develop if it does not have access to information. I grew up in a small town, and I've been to super small towns. I have family in like backwoods Kentucky. Like, if you don't get information there, the people have no idea that this is like a tiny little bubble of a civilization. The whole world is like a big and scary place to these tiny places. And if you're cutting off the access to their information, there's no way that they can start to understand LGBTQ rights or anything that's like culture as progression, because they're locked in this state of fear and like a tiny world. So what we need to do is we need to fix infrastructure and get like internet access to all of these people. And like,
the rest of the world too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because quite frankly, look, if you're following Fox or CNN, you're not getting real news, period. And that's why I follow BBC, and I follow a news organization out of Tonga, out of Australia, out of New Zealand, out of Japan. I follow a couple different news organizations from around the world to get a better view of what's going on, not just around the world, but also our own country. I mean, how sad is it that people are still talking about the Australian fires, saying, oh, well, a bunch of conservatives lit those fires to start climate change talk, which is like completely not true. The Australian news put out several news stories debunking that, and actually have asked Americans to stop telling that lie.
Yeah.
I mean, but no. We don't. We're stuck in our little system and our little thinking, and that we are the center of the world. We are the center of the universe, which is, I was going to bring that up earlier, like how that's the most ignorant thought on the planet, to think that you're the most intelligent being in the universe and that there's not aliens out there.
Yeah.
Like how arrogant and ignorant are you?
Yeah.
But that's also people's thoughts when it comes to religion, politics, just everything.
Everybody wants a simple soundbite to just repeat, and it's like the world is not that simple. It's complex, and we're oversimplifying it. And I always say that people are arguing too many points with too few words, and it's like it's as simple as that. It's like we got to understand these problems are much more complex, and we're going to have uncomfortable conversations, politely, respectfully at least, to understand, because all this shouting and shit, it's like nobody's here, everybody's shouting and nobody's listening, and it's like, and if we don't start listening, like we're not going to get anywhere.
Right. And listening is the key to any good conversation, and listening is a starting point to understanding. And as human beings, isn't that what all of us really want, is just to be understood by at least one person, for someone else to just get us?
Yeah. That's why again with Irreverentism, I started this movement of where trying to like engage people. Like they'll like call me names and all this stuff, but I'll just be like nice to them and just plainly state my side of the story, but also be nice to them. And it's like, this isn't a thing of where like I'm letting people walk all over me. It's a thing where like I don't even care so much about their like negative opinion, because they're just hurt people slinging insults, trying to hurt people. I've like rose above that because I'm looking from a higher perspective. And when you look from the higher perspective, you see any attempt to attack you or defame you, it's flimsy, man. It's like there's no weight behind it. So the only way that someone has power over you with their words is if you give those words weight. So I know in my heart
right.
Like, so, and words without weight are just words. So.
Right. And this is okay. And that's a conversation I've had with family members and relatives that are like extremely Mormon and are offended when I say fuck and other swear words. And it's just like, ooh, I'm sorry you're offended by a single word, but look at the words you put out there that are based on really offensive, bigoted opinions. Yeah. Like what's more offensive, me saying fuck, or you making fun of people for the color of their skin, or being okay with Mexican kids in cages?
Yeah.
So yeah. So once again, that's you are offended by people manifest and shout out and scream usually at the thing that they really are. It's kind of like all the people who are just, your priests who are just like, pedophile's not that bad, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You're a pedophile.
Yeah.
All the people that are just like, screw gay rights, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to fix you as a pastor. Ooh, who's been molesting children? Like, it's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a classic projection, man. It's weird how we get so wrapped up in these realities that we create around ourselves when we are actually the problem. It's
right.
like,
So that's another. So to bring it back to you and your irreverentism, it is about self-awareness. It is about diving deep into your own subconscious and viewing your values and the way you talk to people and treat people and think about people and act towards people. And what of that are you going to change, not just for other people around you, but for yourself? Because that is the whole point of forgiveness that Jesus Christ teaches isn't about forgiving others for themselves. It's for you. Because what are you holding on to when you're not forgiving someone and you're holding on to all that anger and hate and resentment and negativity? That's just going to spiral down, and it creates something inside that just is going to eat away at your soul and eventually turns into cancer.
Yeah. I think any medical issues, they're trapped emotions. Like, have you ever read the Emotion Code?
No.
So maybe check that out too. It's a really interesting book. It's basically, like, I think trauma is just negative frequencies that get trapped in our field, and then they start to manifest as physical, like pain and things like that. So there's a whole way that you can like release these emotions and things, and it's pretty powerful stuff, man.
Yeah, well, that's another thing I like to talk about a lot is emotional intelligence. People don't have emotional intelligence. It's not something we're taught as kids either. Mm-hmm. Especially, look, I'm 45. The generation I was raised by and in with my Generation X, we were raised by the boomers that everybody out there hates currently. Mm-hmm. And yeah, take your feelings, shove them down, wipe the dirt off, don't cry, man up, cowboy up, whatever. Don't ever show emotions. That male toxicity that people talk about so much, that's the way we were raised. And it's not emotional intelligence, it's emotional irresponsibility.
Yeah. Yep. And then that is shown its head in a new manifestation in the modern era, the liberal snowflake. It's, these conservative people try to throw this insult at liberals because they actually care about issues. And, like, I'm not defending like all like sometimes, yeah, liberals, like they could definitely start arguing a dumb point. Like it totally, yeah, that happens. But the thing is these conservatives act like they don't have feelings, and then they belittle other people for their feelings, which is classic bully mentality. So now we've created this social vacuum where nobody wants to be seen as the snowflake. So everybody is like, I just did a post about it not too long ago. I was like, when's the last time you just said, hey man, that hurt my feelings?
Right? Yeah.
It's like nobody says that anymore. And it's like, that's something we were taught as a kid. Like, oh, did that hurt your feelings? Or
tell them.
But yeah, it's like, talk out your problems and just be honest. Like, I'm not afraid to put my feelings out there and be like, yeah, that hurt my feelings, and then what does that person say? Either they just embrace the asshole and make it very apparent that they're an asshole and then continue to attack you, or they apologize, or somehow you guys come to an understanding. Either way, it's like you're putting the ball in the other person's court, and it's up to them if they want to continue to be an asshole or not. So it's like, we shouldn't be afraid of feelings. We should be wielding them to their greatest effect.
Which brings me to my other point. Like, I don't blame this on liberals or any political side or factions of parenting, but I blame a lot on the trophies for everybody culture. We have not set our kids up to learn how to fail. And that, without learning how to fail, you can't learn how to move forward and properly succeed. And therefore, we have an entire generations out there without the emotional intelligence from those experiences of failure, which is why I think, whether you want to play sports or not, or whatever it is, or even D&D and you lose at D&D, whatever. Find something competitive that you're going to lose at. Kids need to learn to lose.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's important. It's a like, failure is a part of the process. I always say it's like, look at all the breakthroughs of science. How did they figure out things in science? Experimentation. You hear about the one time they succeeded something and figured out this aha moment, but you don't hear about the years they spent fucking up. So we're here to experiment and try what works and find that thing that works.
Especially as an artist, because this is something, talk about, you share the memes all the time. when you're paying an artist or a creator or an entertainer, you're paying them for their years of failure to get to that point. You're not paying them according to their time. You're paying them for their years of experience to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like some people like, they're like, wow, that's expensive. And I'm like, well, I'm fast. I've spent a lot of time honing my craft, and, it's just like with it, if a plumber was going to come in and like fix your shit in an hour, then, you'd probably pay that plumber more, because like he's good and he's fast, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. And then that's what I think we need to get back to, that as a society, get rid of the trophies for everybody mentality. Inclusivity is completely different than just trophies for all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, being in entertainment, the Oscars just happened. How are you feeling about the Oscars? Did you have any favorites? Do you have anything you're nerding out on as an entertainer that you're just currently watching, like The Witcher or whatnot? I know you're busy creating all the time. Crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty. I've kind of just went into this like creation hub. I don't have a lot. If I'm watching anything, I'm watching like documentaries, or I do a lot of reading now. It's like I'm just like stoked to learn stuff. So not, like usually I'll set like one day aside a week where I can kind of do whatever. Like Sundays, I'll watch something entertaining or something like that. But I don't know.
It's just expanding knowledge right now, though.
Yeah, and that has become entertaining for me. Like just the growing my mind and my perspective is so fulfilling and entertaining that it's like, a lot of the things I used to be into, like I don't really put the same weight on them anymore. But that's not to say that like I don't like them. It's just, where I'm at right now. It's like I just prefer documentaries and things like that.
Yeah. Well, it's about perspective too, and you're broadening your entire world perspective with your different views right now. So yeah. Well, let's see. What do you got coming up that you can actually talk about and promote?
Gotcha.
With NDAs and the way and everything.
Yeah. Well, actually, I just wrapped a music video, and that should be coming out in a week. But I don't really have anything on the plate right now except all of my personal stuff. I stream on twitch.tv/Cig Neutron. I do like art throughout the week, and then on Sundays, Rannie joins me, and we kind of talk about the last half of the week, or the last week, and what we learned, and then we do like a guided meditation, just to kind of like help bring people into the fold that might not be familiar with meditations or alternate ways of thinking, and they just associate it to religion. So it's trying to reach people and expand, trying to grow Irreverentism. I think I'm going to start putting out like PSAs on the YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/RanCig, RANCIG. And then we have our Patreon, where we just have like behind the scenes stuff. And I do like how-to videos, like effects how-to videos, and Randy does like magic how-to videos. And we do like a monthly vlog where we talk to just the patrons and stuff. So that's patreon.com/RanCig as well. So you can get like, exclusive access to some of our stuff. And then I got I want to do some like YouTube shows. Like I want to do a show where I have different guests on, and we talk about like the hot topic issues that like nobody wants to touch, but like talk about them in like a balanced way, because basically like the conversations everybody wants to have but everybody's too afraid to ask, kind of thing.
Gotcha. So, politics, religion, topic off the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to get some of those things done, and then just make art all in the middle of that somewhere. I don't know. I float all over the place, and again, it's like experimentation. It's like, I don't know. We have a satanic soap company. It's like I do sculptures, makeup. It's like I kind of just start going with the flow, and one of these days something's going to take off for me.
Well, I absolutely know it well, and that's the beauty of always pushing yourself and continuing to grow and being creative like you are. Is you're not basing any of your future projects off of your past work. You're always recreating yourself and looking to grow your, not just your experiences and your knowledge in life, but your artistic side as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, well then let's wrap this baby up. We're going back to some old school questions I'm bringing back from 10 years ago.
Okay.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? I guess the first one popped in, Lobo.
Okay.
Yeah, I just love how I love anti-heroes and just he's trashy and I don't know, it speaks to me.
Who's your favorite villain?
Favorite villain? Oh man. Why do I not have an answer for that? Fuck. Immediately Gary Oldman from The Professional came to mind. That was just a great character. I don't know. I don't know if it's my favorite villain of all time, but damn, that was a good villain.
Well, and Gary Oldman's so good.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, True Romance. Come on, you must have thought it was White Boy Day.
I actually haven't seen that. I should. What?
The
yeah,
fuck?
I know, right?
It's in my top 10 of all-time movies of all time.
I think
it amazes me.
I need to see that too. Yeah.
It amazes me how many people have not seen that movie, and the fact that it was Quentin Tarantino's first written movie ever to make it to the big screen, and he didn't direct it and everything. Nice. But just the amount of actors that are in it and are so young, it's just it feels like it was made for cameos, but they're just young actors who was
nice.
It's ridiculous. Brad Pitt. Oh, anyway, you got to find it. Watch it.
Okay, I'll go check it out.
Okay, and then who's your real life hero? Who inspires you?
Oh my gosh. I just yeah.
That one makes everybody pause. That's why I'm bringing these back. I was actually looking at videos on my YouTube channel from 10 years ago at different Comic-Cons, and every time I ask these questions, everyone's just like, "Holy crap!" So it's okay to pause. It's a deep thought. Some people, it's themselves, a pastor or a father or a mother or a school teacher. There's never been two answers alike.
It's weird because before, you asked me this a year ago, I'd say probably someone like Rick Baker or something like that, but dude, honestly, where I'm at now, and it's the more I dive into all of this stuff, I'm Jesus, man. He, literally, what he was trying to do, and without his message getting warped, that's where it's at, man. And he gets a lot of shit because of people twisting his message. But if you look at even secular people look at what truly Jesus stood for, and they're like, yeah, dude, Jesus was a good dude, So it's all the people, all the noise around Jesus that we got to cut through. Stop giving Jesus so much shit, man.
Right. I'm with you there. I say that all the time, that people have less of a problem with Christianity as they do Christians.
Yeah. Yep. And then the other thing too is me saying that Jesus, it's people could assume that I'm Christian or something, but that's not even the case. It's if you just start looking, you have a worldly view of theologies and things, and it's certain individuals stick out, and Jesus was a pretty rad individual, just Buddha and
Buddha is Christianity in a lot of senses.
It's all the same stories retold in different skins, basically.
Right, exactly. Same regurgitated message of love, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've had this, I hate to say argument, but I've had this argument way too many times with Christians I'm well, yeah, I'm a Christ follower. Oh, you're Christian. No, I'm not a Christian. I'm a Christ follower. I don't go to any church. I don't believe in any specific religion. That I'm a Christ follower. That doesn't make me Christian. I don't believe in the modern definition of a Christian and everything that you all believe in and the hatred you guys spread.
Yeah.
With Jesus's name.
Also, Jesus wasn't a Christian, by the way.
No. He wasn't. And that's my other favorite argument. It's look, open your Bible. Go to the part of the Bible where John the Baptist baptizes Christ. Tell me in that text anywhere what religion he was baptized into. And their minds just melt. And they always end up lashing out at me and getting extra angry because it's the truth.
Yeah. Well, I just had a conversation earlier that I'm telling you, have you seen Inception?
Oh yeah.
So I think that, honestly, I think that we're in a dream within a dream. Like this is how layers of reality. And I think that the earth is a labyrinth created by an architect that's self-containing, and we're here on it. And I think that most people are still at a subconscious level because, you know, in Inception, once somebody else outside the dream starts making changes, it starts to agitate the subconscious people. And if you make too many changes and you rock too much of their structured reality, then they start to attack. And I think that applies to humanity, is that certain people are on a subconscious frequency. That doesn't mean they can't rise above, but they are lulled into this sleep that once you start rocking their boat, they get agitated and they freak out and then they attack. And you see it happen all through history. Like even Jesus was persecuted, you know, like crucified. And it's like witches are always burned at the stake. You know, it's people are afraid of the unknown, even when the unknown is trying to help them.
Even when the unknown is nothing but a positive message, which is, you know, my favorite Jesus quote is, "Get the fried ice cream." We don't have that here. But that's a story for another time. I'll tell you off the air. Make sure you follow Cig on all of his social media, as well as Rannie. We'll throw hers in the links as well for you. You got any last minute words of wisdom before we say goodbye?
You know, I always sign off on did I even mention Spewtron, my podcast? I didn't actually.
No, let's do that now.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I do is Cig Neutron, Spewtron, or just Spewtron's available anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, all that. But yeah, I delve into all kinds of philosophical things and wacky, weird stuff. And the way that I sign off with my podcast is stay weird, stay open-minded, and remember, if you're not looking, then you're not going to find anything.
That's damn good advice. And you know what? I always say, I'll see you somewhere down the road.